We're excited this morning. Friend of the show and just a dynamic leader extraordinaire, Senator Nina Turner is with us this morning. I want to get everyone's take on this next story, Senator Turner. 4.4 million people in the United States quit or changed their jobs in February. And this is a part of the Great Resignation that is ongoing. According to CNN, in the midst of the pandemic and war-fueled economy, Americans have continued to switch jobs at near record rates. In February, there were 11.3 million jobs in the United States, just slightly more than economists had predicted. There was an increase with 4.4 million workers leaving their positions in a historically tight labor market. Senator Turner, I know you're fighting for, whether it's a campaign or not, you're constantly fighting on behalf of labor and fighting on behalf of workers. How does this sit in your calculus?
Well, the workers are making a demand in a collective way, and I'm really glad to see it. And a lot of this started last year, as we all know, with labor unions at various places, from John Deere to nurses to coal miners, standing up saying we deserve better wages, better benefits, and better work conditions. And so what we see happening is that workers are using their might and their power to demand higher salaries, better work conditions, and better benefits. And I'm here for it. We need to do more of it in a more collective and deep way, because although workers are doing this, we know that wages are still, in a holistic view, are not keeping up with inflation. And that inflation is being caused by excessive greed, primarily by the excessive greed of these corporations. So I'm really glad to see workers flexing their muscles, and we must do more of it.
That's right. That's right. Sister Ford, we've covered this quite often. The increase in the cost of gas, the increase in the cost of coffee and food, despite record profits, it seems to be that a lot of Americans have gotten hip to the game, and they're taking it into their own hands.
Absolutely. And I think, as Nina Turner said, wages plays a huge role. I also think culture within these workplaces plays a huge role. When you have a corporate culture that really only gives a bereavement policy of 1, 2, maybe 3 days, people are tired of constantly having to put the corporation before their own family, and in many cases, even before themselves. After the murder of George Floyd, I remember hearing from a lot of my friends who are professionals in these corporate companies that there just was not space for them to process or unpack the trauma that they had witnessed on television or in their own community. And so I also think the Great Resignation, it symbolizes the desire for so many Americans to take back their power, to really truly acknowledge their worth and create spaces for themselves where they're able to bring in income for their family without having to compromise their values, without having to compromise their mental health. And so I think, and I hope that it is a signal to corporations to do better, to create more holistic policies for their employees, because without them, they really have nothing.
Dr. Mack.
Well, first of all, Senator Turner, good morning to you, and Queen Ford. On mute, so I didn't get a chance to say good morning. So good morning to you both. I look at it just a little bit different. If we use just the title, The Great Resignation, it would lend to think that people just resigned from their jobs and didn't do it. And we have to remember that the unemployment rate in this country right now is 3.8%. So this is what I think is happening. It's not only greed, but it's greed from this perspective. We have watched an increase in the minimum wage go up. And I think the greed that American corporations are now looking at is saying, look, if we are going to pay them a higher minimum wage, then it would stand to reason that we could get that money back by simply increasing the prices on common everyday goods of Americans. A loaf of bread, dozen eggs, everything that you could imagine. So I think the sinisterness of what they have done is that, yes, by law, we, Senator Turner, you and others have pounded the table that we need to pay American workers a livable wage. And these son of a guns, Amazon, all the likes of them, Walmart, you name them, that increased the minimum wage, turned right around and said, let's get the money back, by increasing our prices on things that we know we don't have to have an increase. And I think when you look at the reports that came out of Wall Street, where these companies were doing their quarterly reports and earnings, they literally said that they raised their prices because they could. So that is the other aspect of the greed of this nation. On one hand, they want to increase the minimum wage, and on the other, for no other reason than just greed, they'll simply turn around and create this inflationary situation by raising prices when they don't really have to, outside of greed.
Senator Turner, I want you to get the last thought on that particular story.
Yeah, no, amen. Dr. Mack is right. I think we're all pretty much saying the same things. We're just saying it differently. And that's why we need government to check these fools. And that's exactly what they are. They are unpatriotic and they are immoral. And the reason why they get away with this is because government, especially the federal level of government, is not saying, to quote my grandmother, a ne'er word. They're not saying anything, but they're in the pockets of these folks. So you can't serve two masters, and you certainly can't challenge any system that you are benefiting from individually. And so it's time to call out not just these corporations, but what is the federal government that has the biggest stick doing to call out this corporate greed that is absolutely destroying this nation and this world.